So now I want to introduce, hopefully a lot of people have already met her, but it's Mariah Walton from Noble Credit Union. She is here to present on acquiring the money mindset. So this is going to be an awesome presentation. And she always, has more of a conversation with students. So we are very excited to have Mariah here to join us. So Mariah, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, but I'll making sure to monitor that chat box if anybody puts any questions or comments.
Okay, yeah, so thank you so much. Excited to be here again. And congrats to everybody who's almost done with the semester. I've got 3 kids in college and they are counting down the days as well. But today we're talking about acquiring the money mindset, which at the end of the day is kind of why we spend money the way we do. And there's reasons for that. There's psychological proven theories behind that. And then there's triggers that we use that cause us to spend money. So we're gonna kind of talk about that a little bit and go from there. This is a really fairly interactive participation. So if you guys have anything to input or add, please feel free to enter it in the chat and we will go from there. So I'm going to share my screen, turn off my video. Right here. You guys can see the slide presentation?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So behavioral economics, this is actually a fairly new concept in the last 10 years. Nobel Prize winner Richard Thaler came up with the actual definition. And as you can see, it's a mouthful. Behavioral economics studies the effects of psychological, cognitive, emotional, cultural, and social factors on the decisions of individuals and institutions, and how these decisions vary from the traditional view of general economics. So that's a lot, right? But what does that mean? And you guys can see all of these other different theories or fallacies. And this is all part of the behavioral economics. And we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to show you guys a video. And this kind of helps set the stage. So hopefully you guys can hear this okay. Can you hear it okay, Martha?
Can't really hear it. It's really like low volume.
So you cannot hear it?
No, not really clearly.
Okay, let's see if I can adjust my volume. If you can't hear it, we can kind of skip it, but it's such a great. Okay, let's try it one more time. Can you hear it?
No, we can't hear it.
Okay, I think it's a setting issue. Any chance that you can on your end enable video on your end? Sometimes it's a kind of a tricky thing.
Oh, okay. Let me see how we can do that. I think I'm able to, Mariah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna have to just wing it. Okay. So before we get into the nuances of behavioral economics, this is kind of a fun fact that I thought everybody would be interested in. 48% of millennials and 41% of Gen Z spend more money than they can afford to participate in experiences with their friends. I can relate to that, and I'm neither one of those generations. I'm assuming you all can as well. There's been times where I don't really have the money because my kids are in college, but it's my girlfriend's birthday and I don't want to miss out on the fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my credit card. Another interesting fact is 74% of shoppers make buying decisions based on social media and social media influencers. 72% of those consumers are adults. As you can see in the graphic, 51% buy off of Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Pinterest, Twitter, and Snapchat. So social media has a huge influence on how we spend our money. And part of that is because we don't want to miss out. Everybody's buying these cute pair of pants. I want to buy these cute pair of pants. Everybody's buying these new tennis shoes to work out in the gym. I want to do that. And so one of those biases that we have is called FOMO, fear of missing out. And social media does a really good job of playing on that fear so that we can be just like everybody else, especially celebrities or somebody that you look up to or admire. So it's very interesting. And retailers in general really know this, and they've dialed it in really, really well. And then of course you've got AI, which tracks your movement on the internet, and then they directly drive advertisements based on your interest to you, to your desktop, to your phone, whatever technology you're using. And it's all because of this AI. It's pretty interesting. But there's 6 common types of biases that are preventing all of us from building wealth. And so I'd be really curious if you guys, after I read all this, if you can maybe put in the chat what maybe something that you have that you can relate to, or something that you've done. The first one is loss aversion, and this is going to be the most powerful emotional bias. As humans, we have a strong desire to avoid any risk that could result in loss. So this is really this happens a lot when we are investing in the stock market. We don't want to lose any money. We don't want to lose any income. So sometimes we hold on to things when we should just sell it, and so that we don't lose more money. And this is really popular when we're investing in the stock market. So it leads investors to sell something after it has fallen in price, and then buy more of something that has gone up. And so then you're selling low and you're buying high, so then you're losing any more money. So you really want to make sure, if you're considering this in the stock market, that you have a balanced portfolio. Maybe you have some high risk stocks, and then you have some very conservative stocks. The second bias is called the endowment effect. And this is where people tend to value something more highly once they own it. So in the video that I was going to show you, they give an example of this where a kid finds a rare Pokemon card, and he looks up the value on eBay, and he finds out that it's worth $3,000. So instead of selling it because he thinks, it could be worth more, he frames it and puts it up on a shelf in his room. Then the other example is he goes into a comic book store, he finds the same Pokemon card, and it's for sale for $3,000. And he's like, oh, it's not worth $3,000 at all. But if he had it in his own possession, he's like, yeah, it's worth $3,000 and more. So, and especially if maybe like this happens a lot when maybe people inherit things, and maybe Aunt Betty gives you, some valuable china, and you're like, yeah, this china is rare. It's from the Ming Dynasty or Waterford or whatever, and you want to keep it, and you don't dare want to sell it, because when you sell it, people want to tend to try and get things at a deal, right? So you think it's worth more than it really is, when in reality, it's just a sentimental value, and the value is the value. So that's an example of the endowment effect. Sunk cost fallacy, this is probably one of the most popular, and I find myself doing this all the time. It's when you invest or purchase something that costs you time or money, and it's not, you're like, I can't believe I spent money on this, but I still had to do it. So a good example is you go and you buy a concert ticket, and it's the worst concert you've ever seen. The sound system is terrible. It's an outdoor concert. The weather is horrible. Beers are too expensive. Somebody keeps stepping on your toes, and you're just having a miserable time. But you don't want to leave early because you paid $75 for that concert ticket, and you want to get the value out of that concert ticket. Same thing if you rent a movie. It's the worst movie you've ever seen. You burned your popcorn, but you paid $8 to rent that thing. And so you're going to stick with it, and you're going to watch the movie to the end, even though it's not worth your time. So that has a lot to do. That's really popular. And then status quo is when you do nothing because you are afraid of a negative income. So you fixate on the thing that is going to cause a negative emotion, and that gives you justification for not doing anything. So again, you can relate this to the stock market. You may hold on to a stock that has lost value because you don't want to take a loss, so you do nothing. But by doing nothing, you're either not making money or it's costing you money. So something to think about. Bandwagon effect, this kind of says it all. Everyone is doing it. So an example of this is that there was a recent run up in the meme stocks like AMC Entertainment and GameStop. So these individual investors piled into the stocks after being prompted by social media, and many lost money amid the volatility. But people jumped in because everybody else was doing it and they were looking for a quick buck. So you need to be really careful that when you see people buying something that claims that you're going to get rich quick, you maybe need to take a beat and think about it analytically and say, okay, everyone's doing it, but does that mean that I should be doing it? And research it and confirm your thought process and figure out, and redo your research on the stock. Is it really going up the way everybody says it is? Or is there some volatility? So Bitcoin is a big example, right? Everybody doing it, especially in Gen Z or millennials, they're like, Bitcoin is the way to retire quickly. I'm going to do it, no problem. It can't get broken. It's foolproof. Yet we've seen, especially because of the fall of Sam Bankman-Fried, that Bitcoin is fallible. It does have problems. And so we really need to think, just because everybody's doing it, maybe we shouldn't do it. Maybe we need to see what those people are doing and then reevaluate 6 months to a year later and then invest if you want. Confirmation bias is when we seek out confirmation that confirms our beliefs. So people, and this is human nature, we seek out information that confirms our beliefs, and that we avoid reviews or information that creates a negative emotional response. So it's important that we get our information from a variety of sources so that we can make informed decisions. So you can kind of see this in your own personal lives. I would imagine that you hang out with friends that have the same set of values that you do. You read news sources that confirm or lean towards your political beliefs. You obviously, when it comes to religious, you go to the same church so that everybody believes the same thing you do. And that's a natural thing, and it's no problem. You want to, that's human nature. But when it comes to your finances, you don't want to just take one person's word for it, like your dad or your mom. Maybe you want to take out a financial advisor's information or your bank's information, and then take out all these different resources of information and opinions and point of views, and then digest all of that information, because it will be different, and then select the best outcome for you. So those are our top quote or top biases. And I'm hoping that you guys can kind of see yourself in some of these. It's pretty interesting. Another fun fact, the average American spends almost $18,000 a year on non-essentials. $18,000 a year. Let's let that sink in for a second. I personally am guilty of that. I love candles from Target. I buy coats in Fresno, and it doesn't even get cold here anymore, except for this last winter. I probably have 20 coats in my closet, and I only wear one usually. So when you have this, and because we're a first world country and we have so much wealth, even when we're poor, we're wealthy, right? Compared to the most citizens in the world. So we really need to think about that. When we're buying something in the store, you need to ask yourself, is this a need or is this a want? So triggers that make us spend money. Again, I'm hoping that you guys will be able to see yourself in this. I know that I can. There are months where I'm really good, and then there's months where I slip up because I had a stressful day at work or whatever. But talking about these will hopefully allow you or provide insight for you so that when you are trying to stick to your budget, it will, and knowing these triggers, it will allow you to better analyze the situation. And when you're shopping, you can kind of say, okay, this is a trigger for me. What else can I do? So there are top 6 triggers. One is called the shopper's high, and that's a real thing, right? Especially for women. So when you're doing a shopper's high and you go shopping and you've got a day of shopping, let's say on a Black Friday, and you're getting deal after deal after deal, and you're using your coupons and you're getting all these discounts, and you walk out of the store and you're like, yeah, this is great. I feel really good about myself. That's shopper's high. And you're probably buying things that you don't need to when you're in that instance. So maybe when you do like shopping, maybe shop for things that you actually need. Maybe it's a birthday present, or maybe it's I don't know, home repair, and you're shopping around so that you're getting quotes and you're getting the best deal. You'll still get those same emotional highs and triggers, and maybe you won't be spending as much money when you're doing that. Another one is stress. I'm assuming you guys can, some of you can relate to this. If you've had a bad day at work, you're under stress at home. And when you do that, a lot of people turn to shopping as a way to relieve that stress. So unlike there's a thing called shopping addictions, stress shopping may make us feel better over the short term, but once that high wears off, we're literally left holding the shopping bag and the credit card bill. So that stress leads to more spending that we don't necessarily have. So one thing we can do about this is if we're under stress is maybe let's say, okay, I've had a really bad day. I'm going to go online and I'm going to, buy some new clothes or whatever. And then if you recognize that was a trigger for you, maybe ask yourself, what else can I do? Maybe I can go to the gym. Maybe I can go to coffee with a friend. Maybe I can rent a movie, something that is less expensive so that you are not spending more money that will cause you more stress in the end. Another trigger is celebration and rewards. I can relate to this more than the others because I really like celebrating my friends and family. And instead of dealing with our own personal problems, we want to celebrate something great that's happened. So maybe you got a promotion at work. Maybe you got an A on a test, or you hit a new weight loss goal, or it's somebody's birthday or anniversary. So whatever it is, going on a shopping binge might be your reward or what you consider your reward. So rewarding ourselves is important because we want to congratulate ourselves so that we stay motivated, but we need to keep it in check. So giving yourself a reward is a great motivator, and it helps stave off those feelings of deprivation, but you need to make sure that your rewards are reasonable and correspond with the goal that you've reached. So if you've lost 40 pounds, yeah, get yourself a cute little bathing suit, but don't get yourself 20 new bathing suits, that kind of thing. So, and don't go on a shopping binge when you're rewarding yourself. Instead of going to an evening movie, go to a matinee. Look for things that are less expensive. And think through your purchases before throwing down your money, because it will just, at the end, you'll be like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. And then you'll have buyer's remorse. Boredom and social media. This was we saw a huge uptick in this during COVID. We were all stuck at home. We had nothing to do but internet, surf, and shopping. I did this a few times. And we all do silly things when we're bored. Some of us flip the channel on the television, some of us fidget. I personally would kept going to the refrigerator several times a day. But then there are bored spenders. And even if you hate to shop, people tend to do this on occasion. So maybe you were in a store and you wander the aisles of Target or the sports store or whatever, but you need to kind of think, okay, how can we fix this? If you know that when you get bored, you tend to shop, maybe we just window shop. Maybe we put things in our cart and then don't actually buy them. Maybe we need to look around our house and see what could be done. Maybe we need to clean our house. Maybe we need to, again, I love going for walks, so I'm gonna keep using that, but maybe go for a walk or find a hobby to do or something that you can do so that you're not just spending money you don't have. It's pretty intense. So competition, store sales, this is extremely common, especially during the holidays. I mentioned Black Friday, Cyber Monday. As humans, we love to beat others to the punch. We want to show off the new cap that we bought. We want to throw the ball in the proverbial end zone. We really want to show off what we're doing. And we want to look like we've got our lives together, right? Like, my life is so great. I went on this fantastic vacation. And then you see that and you're like, well, I want to go on a fantastic vacation too. So then you one up them and you go on an even longer vacation to an even more wonderful area, maybe Hawaii. Instead, they went to San Diego, maybe you're going to Hawaii because you want to one up everybody in your social circle. And this causes us to do this more often than not because of social media, because we see what our friends and family are doing and we want to be like them or better. And maybe our personal lives are a hot mess, but our front that we're putting out there to the people to consume, it's going to look like our lives are together. I drive the nicest car. I wear the coolest clothes. I vacation in exotic locales, all those things. So if you know that's what gets you, then you can kind of say, okay, you know what, maybe I need to turn off my social media for a little bit. Maybe I need to, instead of competing for material items, maybe I need to compete with myself, and maybe I want to lose a few pounds. Maybe I want to work in my yard so that my house has the nicest yard on the block, those kinds of things. You want to make sure, and you don't want to grab the latest iPhone, things like that. Just because you're grabbing the newest, greatest thing doesn't mean that that's really what you need. So again, when you're doing that, you need to ask yourself, is this a need or a want? The last one, or one of the last ones, is fear. So one of the best ways to drive sales is to stimulate fear, and this is by the retailer. So maybe you're afraid that you'll never see that deal again, right? We all get those emails or text messages saying, buy now and receive free shipping. We're all guilty of that. Perhaps you're scared that they'll run out of the product if you don't act now. So fear sells, and retailers know this, and they do all they can to get you to buy now, even if you can't afford it. But the chances are those deals will come up again. So you just need to take a minute, take a breath, and say, you know what, I don't have the money now, but Mother's Day is coming up, and that's 3 weeks from now. I'll have another pay period, and I can probably get it then, and maybe even for a better deal. So you want to, and it's a great marketing tactic, right? And it gets used all the time. And it gets used all the time because huge amounts of money are being spent. We spend money on things that make our home safer, to high pressure sales tactics. And when we're afraid, we don't always make rational decisions. So in order to combat that, you want to take a step back and assess the situation. You want to give yourself time to consider your options, especially if it's a big purchase like a car or a home. And maybe ask yourself, am I wanting this purchase because I'm afraid of something? And you need to determine if that price point is worth it. And if you're feeling pressure from a salesman, it's almost always better to get up and walk away from the table, because trust me, they'll still be there the next day or 2 hours later, and they will still be willing to help you. So if it's a good deal on Saturday, I guarantee you it'll still be a good deal on Wednesday, whether or not it's for sale. So, and you also need to ask yourself, is that the suggested MSRP for a new washer and dryer is $800 and they're going to give it to you for $500? Trust me, those deals will come back around again, and it may be even a better deal. So you want to really think about that. The last one is faux value. Do you ever wonder, I do wonder this actually, and this is why I put it in here. Do you ever wonder why Kohl's has something on sale all the time, or Hobby Lobby? There's almost nothing that's full price in either one of those stores. And then you ask yourself, how are they making money if everything's on sale all the time? And we just keep coming back over and over because it's a good deal, right? It's a good deal. But when we think we're getting a good deal, we're far more likely to spend. So that means that advertisers and retailers know this. They put out these really cool signs that catch your attention. They spend money on advertising. And big bold numbers, 50% off, buy now, only 24 hours. And they make it more attractive, and they'll put a slash sign through it or something like that. But it's just a trick. And they're just saying it's a faux value because really that sale price is probably the retail price, especially in those stores that do it all the time. So when you're going into those stores, or you're going into some retailer and it looks amazing, and there's glitter in the sky and strobe lights on this one particular product, they're doing that and they're saying it's 50% off, but chances are it's not even close to that. So really, again, if you do your research going into that, you'll know whether or not that's a good deal. All right. And if it's not, you don't have to buy it. Again, walk away. So you can put your Coach purse back down and walk away slowly and say, am I buying this because it's a need, or am I buying it because it's on sale and there's a perceived value there that I'm saving money on? And you need to be honest with yourself and be able to have that conversation. And it's taken me a long time to get there personally, but I realized too that is a Coach purse any better than a regular purse from TJ Maxx or Marshalls? Probably not. So you need to ask yourself, are you buying the brand because that makes you feel better? That gives you that shopper's high? Are you buying it because you're stressed out? Are you buying it because you had a really good day at work and you got a promotion and so you want to reward yourself? Are you buying it because you're on social media and Kim Kardashian is carrying that purse and you want to look like her? You know, you just need to ask yourself these questions and have that conversation with yourself. So these are some of the dirty tricks that merchants use. And you guys can look through all this, but this is really kind of interesting. I wanted to include this because these terms are different ways retailers use to make you spend money. And they use these advertising tactics based on the biases that we previously talked about and based on your spending habits and based on triggers that they know people react to. So I'll just go over a couple of them because I don't want to take up everybody's time on this, but let's see, aspirational buying is when consumers are encouraged to live like those that they admire, even if they can't afford it. Okay, and they do that really a lot with younger kids, which is pretty interesting. False statistics. This is, you'll notice this a lot with like in toothpaste commercials. 3 out of 4 doctors recommend Crest whitening toothpaste over, but they don't really show where they got that survey from. They'll use graphs and charts and statistics that sound precise, yet they can't find these numbers in real life. Flattery is a technique where the potential customer is complimented as part of the sales pitch because you're worth it. Don't you deserve the best? These phrases induce us to feel good about the product, and which makes us more likely want to buy it because we want to do that. This is the freemium is very interesting. And this is really popular with games or apps. So you can get the base level product for free, but in order to get rid of the advertisements on, let's say, Words with Friends or Wordle or whatever, you have to upgrade or purchase credits or enhancements. And then the buyer's hooked, and then you keep on buying new credits because you can't stand the advertisement. Hyperbole is exaggerated claims or statements used as a tool to promote, but not necessarily a statement of fact. So it's only false advertising if a reasonable person would believe the facts are being stated. So hyperbole is just an exaggeration of that, which doesn't necessarily make it illegal, but it sure is unethical, I would say. Nostalgia, this is really good with the older folks. When you're using a nostalgia kind of thing, you're invoking simpler, better times that make us want that particular product, even if we don't remember what those times were really like. So when I grew up, we had, I think it's Keds shoes. They were white, little tiny white shoes. And it just reminded me of walking down the sidewalk in elementary school. And we put these little safety pins with beads on them when we passed them away to our friends. And so then when I saw them at Kohl's the other day, I was like, oh, I used to have these when I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. So those are kind of some of the things that you want to do. That's another one that I really like. Poisoning the well. So this is when one side introduces negative facts or perceptions about the other side, putting the other side at an immediate disadvantage, such as like only an idiot would buy this. It can include fallacy or where the messenger doesn't address the substantive differences, but attacks the competitors or opponent's motives or credentials. This is also popular with what? Political ads, right? They are poisoning the well. You don't want to vote for him because he did this. It was awful, blah, 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 even though the other candidate maybe voted for the same bill or voted somewhere similar along the lines. So things like that. It's pretty interesting. So these are just some of the things that you guys can kind of look at, but knowing these tactics will help you become a savvier consumer. And then knowing what biases you have and what makes you spend money makes you an even more savvier consumer. So you want to make sure that you are as informed as possible, especially when it's coming to big purchases like cars or homes. You don't want to buy something on emotion only. So some examples of these retailers is going to be, they'll use these or those terms in pricing strategies. So a good example was in 2007, iPhone 8 was introduced at $600. 2 months later, it was reduced to $400. And there was this mad rush to buy all the iPhone 8s because everybody thought they were getting this perceived value of a good deal. Product packaging and distribution, this is extremely common. It might be, for example, might be the exact same bar of soap, but because it's packaged as sensitive soap, that might open the door to other consumers that might say, oh, I have really sensitive skin, so I can only use sensitive soap, not realizing or not taking the time to compare the ingredients to the general soap. And the general soap is probably less expensive than the sensitive soap. Another one is BOGO. I don't, you guys might be too young for this, but there was a Payless shoe store and they used to always have buy one, get one free. And that makes you go, well, man, it's a good deal. I don't need 2 pairs of shoes, but it's such a good deal. I'm going to buy them anyway. Well, I was doing this presentation, I don't know, a week or 2 ago, and somebody used to work at Payless. And when they would do the BOGO sales, they actually just increased the price of the shoes so that you weren't getting a good deal at all. But it felt like it because it was buy one, get one. So very interesting. And again, if you kept tabs on that and you were researching, you would know that. Another example is the lightning deals on Amazon, right? You don't buy now, it's going to go away in 12 hours or 6 hours, 30 minutes and 12 seconds. And that really, that fear of us missing out on a good deal makes us want to buy it, even though we don't necessarily need it. And another example is called framing, and Tesla did this. They had, I can't remember the model of the car, so forgive me, but they were doing this car and they framed it in a way to the buyers that like, this car is great. It's got all these amazing safety features. It's got a long lasting battery. It's got great mileage. And they were framing it in a way so that the buyer or the consumer only saw the positives in this. In the meantime, maybe if the batteries went out, it would cost you $5,000 for a new battery. The charge was longer, but if you went faster, it reduced it significantly. So they kind of highlighted the excellent features of the car and not necessarily, I don't want to say hid, but downplayed the bad sides. So merchants will always frame their product in a way that looks best. So you need to, especially with big purchases, you really need to take a breath and say, okay, this is obviously great things, but what am I seeing or what am I not seeing that I need to learn about? Because, you know, Teslas are $90,000, cars or houses are $500,000, and then you have to do a home inspection. So you really want to make sure that the person selling you that product is being completely truthful. Yes, the Tesla gets good mileage. Yes, the charge lasts a long time, but I also need to tell you about these other things. And that's the kind of salesperson you're looking for. So you really want to be careful with that, especially when you know that your biases or your fallacies or what triggers you may make you purchase something that you're going to regret later. This is another one, fun facts. So most people prefer the certainty of receiving $3,000 over the 80% chance of $4,000. So what I want you to do is ask yourselves right now, would you take the $3,000 knowing that you will get $3,000, or would you take the 80% chance that you might get $4,000 instead of $3,000? Okay, so ask yourself that question. But then when we flip it, people would prefer the 80% chance of losing $4,000 over the certainty of losing $3,000. So ask yourself if that's you, if you can relate to that statement or not. And in reality, this is just fungible money, right? So I would really encourage you guys to take note of this website. This is I believe a 25 question quiz, and it's really easy, and you will answer this, and then it's going to populate your value, your financial value. So whether or not you value inner, social, physical, or financial values. So if you want to write this down, I would really encourage you to take it. It's really interesting and it really connects with who you are as a person and how you grew up around money. And then you don't need to be all or nothing. A lot of us are, 20% inner, 30% social, 10% physical, or whatever. But you will find a dominant value system when you take this quiz. It's really, really interesting. And so we're going to go over that and I'm just going to go over the highlights on this since we're not in person and we couldn't take the quiz. Fun facts, 48% of millennials ages 23 to 38 say they've overspent when sharing experiences with their friends, whether it's dining out or going out on a group vacation. I can totally tell you I've done that. So I'm wondering if you can relate to that too. But I wanted to go back to the value thing really quickly. So with inner values, just so you can kind of understand what that means, the overview is that that's our personal identity, how we see ourselves, and our social identity, how we believe others see us. So when you take that quiz and it comes out inner value, that's what that means. So you're going to be influenced in a couple different ways. If you have the inner value as your dominant, you're gonna have a defined sense of purpose and meaning in life. You may desire to worship or not. You have a strong need for safety and security. You have a strong desire for freedom and independence. And you have complete control over your goals and priorities. You have a need for personal space. And you either prefer working alone or with others. It's usually not both. And then you have a clear definition or a clear perception of outer success versus inner contentment. So strong but inner values translates to trusting one's gut or following that inner voice, which can give that person or us a resourcefulness to overcome a sudden money crunch, right? We understand who we are. We know how we're going to get there. I wasn't expecting this vet bill, but I have an idea on how to solve this problem and I'm going to do it. So you also have strong feelings of autonomy and security that help us feel in charge of our lives, which can translate to more confidence in our financial transactions. So that's pretty interesting. Social values are defined by our desire for belonging and relatedness with our family members, neighbors, friends, coworkers, and communities. And that includes organizations which we identify with. So maybe we like to play soccer, maybe we go to church, maybe we're in a professional club, a fraternity or sorority, maybe we are proud Fresno State alumnus, things like that. So our areas of influence for social values include whether or not we are introverted or extroverted. Do we want to be alone or with others? We like to provide for others in formal and informal ways. We enjoy charitable giving and public service work. We like to budget jointly and share expenses. And you have a feeling of relatedness to political parties and representatives, and you have a strong sense of social justice and civil rights. Anybody can relate to that yet? So when that comes to your money, it translates to how our money is in part tied up to our unique family histories. So for me, I grew up extremely poor. I had free lunch at school and I was so embarrassed. I would just skip lunch. I hardly ever got brand new clothes from the store. I was always at the thrift store. So this really affected me and how I view my money and how I want to succeed in life and how I want to spend my money and more importantly, how I want to save my money. And that's because of my unique family history. Like my parents were divorced, yada, yada, yada. It's also influenced on our habits and cultural preferences that we learn early on from our families and other social relationships that influence later in our money habits. So if you sat around the dinner table and your parents talked about money, talked about how important it was to save versus maybe another conversation at the dinner table where it was, we really can't afford a vacation, but we deserve it. So we're going to take you up on it. And you know full well that your parents couldn't afford that, but that influences you. And maybe that stuck with you. And maybe you took on those same money values, or maybe you recognize that that's not how you want to be. And so you took the other way. You took a more conservative approach, which is totally fine. The other two are physical values, which we can probably all guess that's more related to material items. So this translates to the tangible aspects of our life, our physical health, and our well-being. So we're influenced in the amount of space that we need to feel comfortable. So can you feel comfortable in a 1,200 square foot apartment, or do you need a 5,000 square foot mansion? Do you need a condo with no backyard, or do you need to be on 2 acres of land? And we're also influenced by the degree to which we are satisfied and fulfilled by beauty and material possessions. Are we okay with that purse from TJ Maxx, or do we really need that Coach or Louis Vuitton? The health of our bodies and the measures we are willing to take to secure that health also influence us. So are we willing to walk around the block, or do we need to take a really fancy Pilates class? And we have a strong desire for pleasure and comfort, and we appreciate art, fashion, architecture, and design. So that affects our money habits in the following ways. That it may, not always, but it may translate into overspending on material possessions if it's left unchecked. But it also shows up in our desire for quality. Maybe we want to skip the cheap suitcase at TJ Maxx and buy a really nice Samsonite so that it's going to last us for decades and we don't have to keep buying the cheap suitcase. That's okay too. That's okay too. And then it also, maybe a person with strong physical values might also prioritize getting more insurance to protect their valuables. Maybe they might spend more than others on their home and self-care. And this is not meant to feel frivolous, but is to protect his or her investment. And so just because you have a physical value doesn't mean that you're a materialistic person at all. So I want to be really clear about that. And the last financial value, or the last value, is financial. And this is more for older people because usually they're more established in their career and their salaries. But the overview is that it's unrelated to how much money we actually have, but our values reflect what we think or believe about money. So we're influenced by the idea of sufficiency of money. Do I have enough? Will I have enough to retire? The sustainability of resources. How long will my money last? Will I have enough money to live to 80, or will I have enough money to live to 100? And that's actually a valid question, right? We're living longer, our healthcare is getting better. The appropriateness of financial decisions. Is this the right choice for me? Should I retire at 55, 62, 65, 70? And then sometimes you just kind of struggle and you fixate on this question, and you so much so that you get inundated and you can't make a decision. So make sure you're clear about that. If you're a financial valued person, you enjoy bargain hunting and getting a good deal. Oh my gosh, I love that. I never pay full price for anything. And we're big long-term savers because we want long-term security, and we want to be able to buy something for our short-term goals. Maybe we want a new computer, a new phone, whatever that is, but we want to have money for all of those purchases. And how does that affect their money habits? The individuals with strong financial values likely think more about the sustainability of their money and generally have more in reserve than others. They do not have a strong concern about the appropriateness of their purchases because they are more prepared for financial emergencies. And then people with strong financial values can be great financial educators, both in their professional and personal lives. So when you take that quiz, you'll be able to figure out which one you identify with, which is pretty fascinating. And I'm sorry I skipped this slide, but I wanted to talk about that for just a. And then that's it, y'all. This is my thing. If you guys want to join Noble Credit Union, you sure can. But that is it. Let me get out of here so you guys can see all this. Are there any questions? Stop the share.
I don't see any questions in the chat box at all, but
Okay.
But thank you so much, Mariah, for this great presentation. It really got me thinking about, even for me, about my money situation and like just growing up. So thank you so much. We did record the session, so people will have access in case you missed a part or you want to revisit any of the presentation. It is recorded and we'll post it in the next few days. But I'm also putting in the chat box the event that I shared at the beginning of the presentation. For April 25th event, people could sign up. Make sure that you guys take advantage. It's a completely free event, but But yeah, thank you so much, Mariah.
You are so welcome. You guys have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your semester and good luck with that game of life thing that you're doing. Sounds really fun. We do that with a lot of our members too. So I
Oh,
hope
do
you have a
you?
good time with that. Yeah, it's really
Thank
cool.
you.
So,
Yes, very interactive. But thank you, everybody.
all right. Have a good day, you guys.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.